The Ambitious Radio Network. Conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Are you an entrepreneur, startup junkie, or just someone interested in improving their leadership skills? If you're looking to be motivated, inspired, and uncover what it takes to get to the next level, listening to Ambitious Radio will be well worth the investment of your time. We have weekly engaging conversations with today's most influential thought leaders and entrepreneurs as they discuss their successes, failures, tipping points, and other priceless information that you can apply immediately after listening. Now, here's your host, Doug Parker. And welcome to Texas Money and Business here on KEXB. Experts in business, and certainly an expert in business on the line with us right now. We have Doug Parker here, and we are all set up again to go with Ambitious Radio Network. Doug, welcome back. It's good to have you here.
Hey, thanks, Ron. Appreciate all you do. Great to see you again. Hopefully the holidays have been treating you well.
Well, so far so good, and I hope the same for you too.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what. Today we're going to be talking to an entrepreneur, a leader that really has done some very ambitious things, and we're so excited to have him on the show. But before we get to that, I definitely want to thank our sponsors because we could not do it without them. So I want to thank freeelectricitydfw.com and repairmycreditnow.com. And in this segment, we're going to talk about getting to know the entrepreneur. So today we're talking to Michael Chaffin. He's a strategically focused visionary and a results-driven business executive, entrepreneur, business manager, and management consultant. So, woo, man, that was a mouthful.
And you did it well.
Man, I'll tell you what. Well, I tell you what, thanks so much for being on the show. When I started really researching you and looking through some of the things that you've done, it really is a significant resume, and it really is pretty interesting. But let me ask you this. If I bumped into you in an elevator, man, what would your 10 to 20-second elevator pitch be to me?
Oh, wow. Depending on who you are, I am one of those individuals focused on apparel and launching an apparel line, as well as I really connect the dots between a lot of different individuals.
Yeah, I saw that. When I was looking through there, if I was to introduce you to someone, I mean, there's some pretty interesting people. I mean, obviously you've been managing Nelly, the hip hop artist, for looks like over a decade. Your new venture, 3 Commas, is an apparel kind of expedition you've gone on, but with Mark Cuban. So, man, I tell you what, this is going to be an interesting interview. I don't think I'm going to be able to get all my questions answered because we don't have 4 or 5 hours to talk. But with that being said, let's kind of just dive right in. I always like to ask folks, about quotes they like and things along those lines. Do you have a favorite quote? I
have lots of favorite quotes. One in particular, granted, Martin Luther King said it, basically how you judge a character of a man by really how they react during bad times. Mm-hmm. And I think in the entrepreneur world, everything's great at the beginning.
Yep.
And when there's really no money on the table, and it's real interesting to see how it changes once things start getting successful or when things get in trouble. You really can judge a character who you're with.
That makes a difference. And, there's a proverb that talks about, he who walks with the wise will become wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. That character issue, there's really, you need to decide it up front because you're kind of building a business relationship with folks. And as an entrepreneur, you got to be quick, make decisions, pull the trigger. You don't have a lot of corporate structure, which can be nice. The problem is if you're with the wrong people and you don't have, that structure in place, it can really be devastating. So that really is quite a good quote. I really like that one a lot as well. So tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, where did you grow up? I mean, you're not from here in Dallas, are you?
I've been here for over 41 years, so I think I'm fully transplanted from Oklahoma.
Gotcha.
Started my first venture when I was 13, mowing lawns, going door to door, selling my service. And realized it's kind of hard to sell with your mom standing at the out by the mailbox while you pitch your ware, but got a few deals done.
Sure.
And got into the software business after college, and then found some partners and stepped out on my own first entrepreneurial venture, launching a business process reengineering and application development firm. And we grew to about 175 individuals and had a couple offices going and ended up selling to Koch Industries after the crash of 2001. So probably didn't get the best multiple at that time.
Gotcha. Now Koch, is that like the Koch brothers you hear about?
Yes, absolutely. We had
Okay.
a very strong project management competency, and they had $60 million in projects and wanted to drag our company inside their company to run those projects.
So let me ask you this. So how do you, just as an entrepreneur, I've had multiple businesses myself, but I've never really made an exit. That's the problem. I ride them to the end till they're not fun anymore. But how do you, get to that exit? Because I noticed one of the projects with Nelly that you had done, you had sold that as well. How do you make that determination of when's a good time to exit, to build a relationship like with Coke Industries? How do you get to that point?
Well, I can tell you exactly when not to exit.
Okay.
That first one was a little bit late. We were young and stupid, and every time we kept getting offers to sell, trending up to 2,000, we turned it down because we thought we could get more, and the bottom dropped out of the market at that point. With Apple Bottoms, we really held it for a long time, and the thing peaked out at about 100 million in revenue, and sold it for a good number. So we were real excited about that. Probably we held on a little bit longer than we should have, but at the end of the day, it was a very positive exit.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you said you've been here in Texas for about 41 years. Now, how did you get tied into? I saw you were doing some stuff in Missouri as well, right?
Yeah, actually, it was through, you're always networking. And a friend of mine was connected to someone that was connected to Nelly's bodyguard. And when his jean line was was really struggling, they basically brought me out there, introduced me, and turned it around and just never left. So Nelly's headquartered out of St. Louis, and where he was raised. And so still commute up there quite a bit.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw that you were involved, I think, with the Make a Wish Foundation.
Yes, I'm on their governing board.
Okay.
I've been on a few boards up there. I think they're really using me to get to Nelly. So I'd like to think I was a popular one in the crowd, but I think I'm there to represent.
Sure. Well, hey, I mean, the bottom line is, when you've got successful entrepreneurs, there's always a vacuum of leadership, really. And so, I really love it whenever entrepreneurs you see are giving back, they're doing things, because it's easy to be all self-centered, and you have to give up time to do those things. And obviously, you're not getting paid anything to do it, but it really makes a huge difference when folks are out there doing stuff that's really nothing in it for them.
Definitely a firm believer in karma.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. Now, when we talk about books, I saw that you really like the book Titan. It's
Excellent.
the life of John D. Rockefeller Sr. So tell us a little bit about the book. I mean, there are parts of it that you liked. Was there anything specific that stood out to you?
I thought the guy was absolutely a phenomenal guy, one of the most charitable guys in history, if you look in today's dollars, as well as he was just an aggressive businessman that both knew how to sell his product, knew how to deliver it. He knew every single aspect of his business, and I don't think there's been that strong a driver ever.
Right.
So phenomenally involved and driven person. So definitely opened my eyes to who he was.
Gotcha. So, it sounds like, you started out kind of the entrepreneur, a lot of kids. I had the same thing. I sold little pieces of holly when I was a kid, and then did some mowing, and then, went to the next deal. But, it sounds like you were doing some software and technology related stuff. And then somehow you kind of made the transition to apparel. So how was it that you were doing apparel well enough that Nelly's, contact said, hey, we need this guy to come help us with apparel?
Actually, it was the true entrepreneurial spirit there, the business consultant experience there. You grab a book from Barnes and Noble and you read it on the plane for your meeting to try to sell yourself. So before that, really didn't have any apparel experience, and
Really?
kind of learned as I went. They just needed someone out there that could dig through the books, negotiate out all the poor contracts that were written, and work out a licensing agreement.
Interesting. Well, that's quite a transition. Now, I also saw that you were involved in kind of an early social networking marketplace, kind of even before Facebook or the LinkedIn, or I saw a word MySpace, which I hadn't seen in 100 years. I don't even know if that's still out there or not, but it's called 6 Degrees Online. So, I guess that kind of has to do with like the 6 degrees of separation, the Kevin Bacon deal.
Absolutely. We did I went to SMU for graduate school, and there's a group of us that got together and realized that it was so hard to understand who knew who. So we put in Excel spreadsheets and started storing them out online, and sharing our Excel spreadsheets with our contacts so we could expand our connections. at that point, I saw an opportunity and basically created a website where it was basically very similar to LinkedIn, that people can put their businesses and everything people they're connected with and send out invites. And was raising money and got down to the point where I had a $2 million term sheet coming in on September 9th. And we pretty much came to an agreement. And then September 11th happened and wiped out all the funding. So kind of shelved that project for a bit and went out in the consulting world. And next thing you know, Spoke and LinkedIn and all those started coming out.
Yeah, well, I mean, the one common denominator I've seen about entrepreneurs, especially serial type entrepreneurs, is they fail several times. They just have one or two more wins than they have failures.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's good stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, as we kind of wrap up on this segment, just guys, if there's anything on the show that you missed or you're tuning in late, you can always go back to ambitiousradio.com, go to the guest page. So the way you get there is you just go to the listen page, and then it'll have our guests listed there. So we'd love to have you tune in and like us on the Ambitious Radio Network on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. Tune in after a brief word from our sponsors when we'll be talking more with Michael Chaffin about his career pursuits and his experience of becoming an ambitious entrepreneur and starting his own business, 3 commas, right after the break. Hey, ambitious listeners, you hear us interviewing entrepreneurs all the time, and there's a common theme. They want to be more productive and improve their communication. As an ambitious entrepreneur, you're always on the go. So turn your mobile phone into a business phone system with Grasshopper, the entrepreneur's phone system. The Ambitious Radio Network recently partnered with Grasshopper to offer our listeners a special discount. Log on to ambitiousradio.com and click on the Grasshopper banner in the bottom right-hand corner. Get a new business number or keep your current one. Sound professional with a main greeting and multiple extensions that forwards callers to your mobile phone or others in your organization. Get a toll-free number or local number for your business with multiple extensions. Set up each extension with custom call forwarding to any phone in the world. Get your voicemails emailed to you as an audio attachment or transcribe an email. Keep business calls separate from your personal calls. Plans start at $12 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Remember to click on the Grasshopper banner at ambitiousradio.com for a special discount for our listeners. Join the over 150,000 small business owners that have stayed connected with Grasshopper. See how Grasshopper works? It's the entrepreneur's phone system. Turn the world into your office.
And we hope you're feeling ambitious today. We certainly are here on Texas Money and Business. Doug Parker is here, your host for Ambitious Radio Network. And Doug, it's all yours.
Thank you, sir. Ron, thanks for all that you do for us. And today we've got a fantastic guest. We've got Michael Chaffin and with 3 commas. And, while we're on that subject, tell me real quick, how did you guys come up with that name?
Well, I would love to take credit for it, but originally Mark had reached out. Him and Nelly are both NBA owners and got connected that way. He approached us about doing his apparel store, shop.markcuban.com. And I spent quite a bit of time coming up with these great logos to private label at Mark Cuban Clothing Company, things like that. And so I sent him all these logos, and he just replied back with no, and he put 3 commas up. And I sent him back 3 question marks because I had no idea what that meant.
Right.
And he just responded, "There's 3 commas in $1 billion." And I thought that was extraordinarily clever. So went through the process of trademarking it, buying the name 3 commas, and just really to put it on hold because I knew we wanted to launch something around that. So that was basically the genesis of the name.
Yeah, I saw somewhere when I was kind of researching that it's I guess that's a universal symbol for $1 billion, and I never really had been exposed to that. That's out of my pay grade there, but anyway, well, in this segment we're going to be talking, about becoming an ambitious entrepreneur, and it's brought to you by Grasshopper, the entrepreneur's phone system, and AutoFlex Leasing, a better way to lease your next car. So I see that you've been part of multi-million-dollar companies and successes over the years, and taking them to even more, larger multiple $1 million successes. But is there one common denominator that kind of contributed to those successes you've seen over the years?
Discipline.
Discipline.
I honestly think just really coming up with that process and just being disciplined, coming in and executing it every day.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was in our last show last week. We were talking to a gentleman, and I was talking about the holidays and people being disciplined, and if either you can be disciplined or you will be disciplined. It's just whether it's internal or external. So I like that a lot. I really do. So let's talk about over the years. I mean, one of the things obviously that you did way back was Attachmate software. That's kind of where you got started. But I see that. I mean, you're working with the Fast and Loud, the Richard Rawlings. You work, working with Nelly, partnership with All Goods. I mean, let's talk about those just a little bit. How did you just get connected with all these guys?
Actually, a guy I went through college, fraternity, everything with, had a company, and at the time it was about an $8 million company, and he was having some issues, struggling. I just turned in, shut down 6 Degrees online, and helped him fix a few system and internal processes, and now they've blossomed into $100 million company now. So. And with that, provided me a lot of infrastructure to do apparel projects, to do a lot of these fulfillment deals. Richard Rawlings, in the early days when his show was just starting, had a pretty avid fan base. I mean, he had people with tattoos of his mechanics on their arms. So he had a pretty strong following, and he wanted to launch an apparel line. He'd come out here. We put together a program for him, and first time we've really ever done fulfillment for shows before. But he got behind it, helped push it, and we now today, typically in December, is one of his bigger months. He'll do $2-3 million in just T-shirts and hoodies.
Really,
so it's been a success for him.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What's he like to work with? I mean, I see him on the show. I actually like that show a lot. So it's just an interesting, entertaining. A couple guys seem like they're kind of goofing off, but you can tell they're not dodos. I mean, they're kind of dumb like a fox sometimes.
What you see on the show is Richard. That is one of the things. He is not changing himself on the show. He is obsessive compulsive about the details, and you've never seen anybody. I mean, you go into his office, you'll see his desk is equidistant from each wall. I mean, to the millimeter. So he obsesses about the details, and that's why he's been so successful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. And then with Nelly, so what's it like working with a hip hop artist? I mean, is that something? Did you grow up listening to that kind of music, or is that outside your normal genre?
Actually, embarrassing enough, I didn't even know who he was when I went to meet him, and I had to buy his CDs, and didn't realize how many #1 songs he had out by then. So
he's a big deal.
He is definitely a big deal. He has broke a lot of records over the years, but he is probably one of the most creative people I've ever met, and definitely changed my opinion about a lot of the rappers out there. That every CEO that I've got him in front of, and any project that we've worked on, he will ask the most intelligent questions, and he's also extraordinarily unassuming. He's what you see is what you get with him. So he'll talk to a CEO of a company same way he'll talk to a clerk at Walmart.
Yeah, I remember. I think the first time I ever heard, pretty sure it's his first #1 hit. But I was actually coming back from Oklahoma, and I just gotten close enough where I could hear 106.1 again. And it was this song. It was Hot in Here, and I was like, "What in the world is this song? It's kind of got a cool beat to it, but it's got all kind of crazy words." My kids were in the car, so I had to change it. But it was really interesting. And then I started kind of researching him, and he had the little Band-Aid thing he had for a while. But the guy obviously is a branding machine. And it kind of reminds me of this book. It's called Talent's Never Enough. You talk about the different rappers and stuff, and there's a lot of talented guys out there, but that's not enough. It's when they take it to the next level and really turn into professionals. And you hear about these guys like 50 Cent that does the vitamin water or whatever and sells it for $100 million. It's like, well, good for that guy. You know what I mean? He could have just done bad stuff and really made something with his life. So that's great to see these types of things happening. So you've been working with Nelly for what, about 10 years now? 10, 11 years?
We're past the 11-year mark now. This next April will be 12.
Goodness.
So he came out there right in the middle of Sweatsuit.
Man, I'll tell you what. So now do you manage him as a manager, or are you more doing his apparel stuff, or is that kind of interchangeable?
I am not the typical business manager. I oversee all his accounting, his legal, any new business ventures, all contracts that go through, and then a part owner in some. We have a company, Dirty Apparel, that's more of a marketing company that we co-own together that will actually do apparel projects through.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Well, I'll tell you what, man. From a kid mowing lawns to partnering with Mark Cuban and Nelly on things. I mean, that's got to be quite an interesting path that you've blazed there. So, I can't wait to hear more from you. But as we kind of continue the conversation, so when you were getting into some of these things, you mentioned you didn't know who Nelly was. Tell me about some of your fears. I mean, you jump on a plane. I mean, obviously, you're not scared to just go out there and jump in the deep end, with the sharks and no floaties. So, but what kind of fears have you had with starting some of your own businesses?
Um, Success.
Okay.
Wondering every day. When you're at the point when you're signing the front of checks and making sure payroll clears every day. And I see that with Nelly as well. He has about 28 people on his payroll, and that's a significant check you're writing every other week. So that's typically the fear is once you start getting others involved. When it's just yourself, you say what's worse that can happen. But
Right.
when other people are involved, that's where it gets challenging.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this: is there one piece of advice you can think of that's some of the best business advice that you received?
Actually, two things. Focus is by far the number one. I think, and especially looking at my background, you can see how scattered it is. I honestly think it seems like some of the most successful people have been very passionate about something, and when they focus on it, those are the ones that seem to be the most successful. Every time they venture outside that, majority of them fail. It takes a really unique person to be successful in a bunch of different ventures.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in one of Malcolm Gladwell's books, I think it's a tipping point, but he talks about it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert in something. And
Absolutely.
and the problem is with entrepreneurial related guys, and Richard Ronks pops into my head. He's got the bar and grill now and some other stuff, but it's you sometimes you lick all the red off the lollipop, and it's like, okay, what's next? You know what I mean? You want to do other stuff, but you're not necessarily an expert at it because you hadn't had that 10,000 hours or whatever. So that focus makes sense. Now you said there was two things. What was the second thing?
Um, It was focus and the whole discipline side. Yeah,
Okay.
you really, from a cost control, everything, you got to watch every penny that goes out and manage accordingly. A lot of people will invest way too much in infrastructure and everything to gear up and end up overspending early on. You got to invest enough to prepare, because too many sales can kill a company just as much as too little. But you really got to watch all the comings and goings of every dollar in the company.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So let me ask you this, Mike. If you could go back and tell the 10-year younger Mike one thing, what would it be?
I would definitely stay focused. And that
Okay.
was one of the hard things when you get someone like myself that loves taking on every different type project out there. You've seen 1/10 of the things that I've dove deep down in from, and when you got a right-brained artist that is kind of the same way, two of us are very dangerous together.
Right. Somebody's got to reel it back in, keep everything under control.
Absolutely. And I do a better job of that now that I've turned 50. But I think at that stage, everything looked great. And we went down and investigated a lot of different business, from 17,000 square foot sports bars to gaming in South America to the cannabis trade.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff to get out there and do for sure. And I think I read this from Zig Ziglar one time, but he talked about you can open up the phone book, pick out anything in there, and just do it a little bit better than the next guy, and you can be successful. Now, will you be a billionaire? Who knows? But the bottom line is that you can definitely do it a little bit better than others. So let me ask you this: what advice would you give to an up and coming entrepreneur, either someone that really hasn't left and kind of left their job, or someone that just now did and they're in entrepreneur mode? What advice would you give them?
Oh, once again, if it's their passion, it's amazing how successful they'll become. If it's not their passion, they shouldn't have left.
Gotcha.
I think Mark Cuban once said that the paycheck is the worst drug. You get used to it, and then when you first step out on the entrepreneurship and you don't have that check coming in and that insurance coverage and everything a company provides, you never jump both feet into fully being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think if you're very passionate about what you do, you will make that leap.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. Well, we'll wrap up here, and next we'll be talking to Michael Chaffin about the ambitious things that he's done and what's next on the Ambitious Radio Network.
Back in here on Texas Money and Business. Good to have you here, all feeling ambitious today. It is the Ambitious Radio Network and Doug Parker at the helm. Doug?
Yes, sir. Thanks so much, Ron. I really appreciate it. Today we're talking with Michael Chaffin of 3 commas, which is the universal symbol for $1 billion. So he's 3 commas apparel. And we're going to talk about, what ambitious things that you're doing now and kind of what's next, brought to you by repairmycreditnow.com and Grasshopper, the entrepreneur's phone system. So, Mike, let's talk a little bit about kind of, the 3 commas, project. I know that you're partners with Mark Cuban on that. And so, we talked very briefly how you came up with the name, but how was it that, who wouldn't want to be in business with Mark Cuban, right? I mean, it seems like everything the guy touches pretty much turns to gold.
Absolutely.
But, how do you get connected with a guy like that and then pitch him on an idea and then make it happen?
Well, fortunately, the first idea he kind of approached us on, I've always stayed in touch with him just through email. And it goes back to the whole discipline thing. I had never met him in person for probably 2.5, 3 years. But I'd always keep, the whole philosophy of staying on top, always making sure an email would go out regularly to him so he remembered who I was. And then one day he just said, "Hey, you do apparel, right?" And he would like to come out and see you. He was there the next day, looked at the place, said, "Great, let's do it." And so put together his online store and got that up within, I think we did it in about 10 days, and started putting stuff on the shelf. And then he wore a 3 comma shirt on Shark Tank once. And Mike Judge, a writer of HBO's Silicon Valley, saw it and wrote it into their script. So you have the Trace Comma Tequila, the 3 Commas Club, everything that they were talking about on the show. And at that point, when HBO started trying to file trademarks that were in conflict of ours, my attorney called. And at that point, I reached out to Mark, and he decided that, hey, let's make a run at this and kind of become, what Nike is to athletics. We wanted to become that for the entrepreneur.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, when I Googled your name and 3 commas, actually your trademark pulled up. So that's very interesting. And I guess when you do those things, so do you guys have it trademarked for apparel specifically? Is that what it's for, or how does that work?
Correct. You would trademark for classification. Actually, one thing I learned this year, the nice thing about having Mark Cuban involved, even at categories you don't have it trademarked for, if you are a celebrity, you actually have some leeway in trademark law to go out and capture those others, even though someone else filed ahead of you. But as long as you have the core one filed first. So we're able to go out. We got bags, we got eyewear, hats, all those are different categories.
Gotcha. Is that because if you're a celebrity, because you have more exposure and so people might more likely see your trademark?
It's your brand. Yeah, someone could come in and do something that diminishes your brand, so they give you a lot of leeway there.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So let me ask you this. I've actually exchanged some emails with Mark in the past. I was previously a season ticket holder and sent some ideas to him, and he responded back to me, which I was surprised. But I hear he really prefers to communicate via email. So is that how it is with you guys for the most part?
Absolutely. That actually stunned. You say something. Someone told me about that a while back, and I go, "I'm working for Nelly. I'll send him an email," and sent him an email, and he responded back within like 3-4 hours, and I was stunned. And I figured it was someone at his office doing it, but it turned out to be him.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, man. It's good to be able to communicate. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't know what's going on with their stuff, and so I hear that Mark likes to do that. He keeps a record of everything so it doesn't get misinterpreted. And I guess when you're worth billions of dollars, you got to be real careful about what's going on out there. So what's it been like working with him? I mean, now you said that he and Nelly are both kind of mentors to you. What's that really like on a day-to-day? Well, I say on a day-to-day basis. Do you have much interaction with him in a day-to-day or monthly basis?
Absolutely. Also he has 100 companies he's dealing with and wanting the same thing from. He, any questions I have, anything I pop out, it can be intimidating at times because he pops back, answers so quickly, and you kick yourself in the ass for not, really thinking of it first. So. He's been absolutely phenomenal to bounce things off of. Most stuff's via email, so it's great. So I can really put down my thoughts and get it to him, and then he has a chance to look at it and really come back. But Both him as well as his support team around him have been great. He's kind of created this pool of companies to be able to leverage each other and
Gotcha.
also work out contracts with support staff from accounting to web stores, infrastructure, basically infrastructure type businesses.
Okay. So, now that I know the 3 commas, I know what it means. It'll probably I'll see it everywhere now. So I hadn't seen it in the past so much, but I hadn't been looking for it either. So how long have you guys been working on this project?
Actually, it's funny you should say that. Our products land tomorrow in the U.S. We developed it with this regenerated cotton out of India. Basically, it saves 400 gallons of water per T-shirt. But our initial inventory is coming in right now. So far, everything that we've done over the past year and a half has been just products we developed off blanks, tear tags, and private label. And we're now planning on going retail by February.
Gotcha. That's a good reason why I hadn't seen it, because it hasn't been mass out there yet. Okay, well, I don't feel quite so bad there. That makes perfect sense. Well, congratulations on the launch. So really, there's not any statistical data to to kind of see where this goes. But is it? You mentioned T-shirts and some other stuff. So what is the apparel? I noticed that today you've got on your sweatshirt there, and that looks fantastic. But is it going to be kind of more of a casual wear?
It's going to be a full line. And, when you think entrepreneur, you think of someone that's working long hours. So it's going to be comfortable clothes, but also some jackets, everything you can throw on with a T-shirt and get in front of investors or vendors. Okay. We'll have 12 shirts, polo shirts. It'll be a full line.
Cool.
But it'll be a little bit more, if you see like Carbon to Cobalt and some of those brands, that it'll be a high-end line, but it'll definitely be geared towards that entrepreneur that puts in the long days. And sometimes we'll wear the same thing 2 days in a row.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. Now, do you guys have, and maybe you can or can't talk about this, I don't know, but do you have like distribution through stores, or are you doing it all online right now? What are you doing?
We're all online right now, and we're actually just uploading and should be on Amazon, I believe, at the end of next week, and using their distribution services as well. And then we're working with retail starting next week, trying to sell into the small specialty shops to start. Okay. Mark's big on the online world, so a majority, where he'd love to see this brand kind of sit at is that online arena.
Yeah, you can cut the middleman out and make all the money for yourself and sell it to the people cheaper, right?
Absolutely, but you also need a little bit of a retail presence to get out there from a branding standpoint as well.
If he only had like an arena or something where he could put stuff in. So let me ask you. So
sold it there last season. It was very well known, but we definitely sold some product out there.
Cool. So now, if somebody wanted to go get something, they can go to 3commas.com. So just the words both spelled out.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Well, I had to go grab a couple of shirts, man. I always like comfy stuff, and you're right. Being an entrepreneur, you work all of the time. So,
we'll send you stuff.
What's that?
We'll send you stuff. You just got to take a picture and send it to us, Sportnet.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'll definitely do that. So, let me ask you this: in working with both those guys, Nelly and Mark. So, I always like to ask guys, what specific advice or what things, can I go back and apply? And then again, I hope our listeners can do the exact same thing. So has there ever been anything that one of those guys told you? I know focus. But is there anything that you're like, what, Mark told me this or Nelly told me this, and it was like an aha moment?
Both are unique. I am somewhere between those guys. Mark's very big on our organic growth and really that brute force effort to push out, loves the online world, and has always pushed the side of, looking for creative ways to push it online. He's really driven me around, the whole SEO experience, as well as Facebook ads and things like that to reach your audience. And it's really the first time, because I haven't leveraged him promoting it much yet. We've really been doing it internally and waiting for the product to hit retail before we leverage his social media to push it. So, the whole very conservative organic growth style has been a little different than from Nelly's perspective. He can blow things up very quickly, and so he typically loves to do the heavy marketing on the front end, where Mark likes to bootstrap things, and once it starts getting some traction, start rolling the dice on marketing.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense. Just kind of a couple different directions to go. So it gives you experience with two successful folks
Yeah,
in different directions.
Mark rolls the dice. I mean, Mark is of course invested in a lot more companies than Nelly has, but he's a lot more conservative in the way he launches those. Nelly is a lot more aggressive in the way, and risk and reward standpoint. But the two are definitely different from that aspect. And I
Gotcha.
think something between.
Yeah, well, kind of interesting. I saw something one time where someone was talking about the Shark Tank, and they were saying that just how successful Mark was compared to the other guys, and those other guys are very successful in their own right. But
Right.
anything that Mark wants, he's going to get it on that show. There's nobody going to be able to outbid him or out negotiate him on it. So if he wants it, it's his. But anyway, I mean, I'd say again, billion. There's about 1 billion reasons, or 6 billion, or whatever the number is now, that why he can make those things happen. So, well, hey, I appreciate this time. It's been really great, talking about the things that you've done to, from an ambitious standpoint. Next, we're going to be talking about kind of the ambitious mind, body, and spirit. How do you recharge those things? And so look forward to hearing about that right here on the Ambitious Radio Network. We've got Michael Chaffin from 3 Commas.
Here's another RepairMyCreditNow.com story.
It's a day this family had dreamed of for quite some time. They were finally getting that brand new SUV. The salesperson at the auto dealership gave them the keys and told them to take it for the weekend. He'd prepared the documents and called them Monday morning. The kids had already installed the headrest DVD when the phone rang. Seems there was a problem with their credit they were unaware of. They'd have to return the SUV to the dealership immediately. Embarrassing, to say the least.
www.repairmycreditnow.com.
Hello, this is Doug Parker with RepairMyCreditNow.com. Do you have less than perfect credit, a repo, maybe some late payments, a collection account? Are they being reported accurately? Studies show that over 70% of Americans have inaccuracies on their credit reports. Where do you fit in? Go to RepairMyCreditNow.com for your free credit report evaluation. And remember, your credit is your future. If you want to get started now, log on now. RepairMyCreditNow.com.
RepairMyCreditNow.com. www.repairmycreditnow.com.
Back in here on Texas Money and Business. Good to have you right here on the show, and of course the Ambitious Radio Network, and Doug Parker. Doug, take it away, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, we've got Michael Chaffin on the show with us today with 3 Commas. It's a joint venture with Mark Cuban, and it's an apparel kind of play where they're doing comfy, very comfortable apparel that's everything you could want to wear. But it also is going to be nice stuff. And I think one of the things that Mike mentioned a minute ago was, if as an entrepreneur, sometimes you got to wear it for a long time, and sometimes you may look up and you wear it the next day too. But anyway, with that being said, in this segment, we're going to be talking about recharging the ambitious mind, body, and spirit. And it's made possible by all3reports.com. It's all the number 3 reports with an S.com. And a wise person once said, lease what depreciates and buy what appreciates. So go to AutoFlex Leasing, the better way to lease your next car. I know it firsthand. I've leased several cars from them for my wife and myself, and they really are top notch and do a fantastic job. So, Mike, this is kind of the lightning round where we kind of wrap up and talk about really just kind of the softer side of things, things that you do to recharge, and how do you, go so hard in the paint and do it all day long and then get up and do it again the next day. So let's talk a little bit about, things that kind of drain you and then kind of what fills you back up.
It's pretty easy. It's a lot of the internal administrative processes, all extremely value add, but when you have to dig down in the details versus the building, that can be exhausting.
Yeah. So you're telling me, as a visionary, you don't like the finer details of like what insurance costs and stuff is?
Absolutely. Once that process is built, going back and having to tweak or modify that, that can be exhausting. Fortunately, I got great people around me to help manage that.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what fills you up. Things that you enjoy doing. Have you got a favorite movie you like to watch?
Oh, it all depends on the moment.
Okay.
If you want the mindless thing, like the most recent one, Trainwreck Out, which is probably not recommended for kids, but seeing LeBron James in there be a cheapskate and John Cena be pretty unique. It's definitely a great way to escape.
Cool. Hey, sometimes you just got to unplug, and I think our last guest was talking about not watching any TV. He's like, hey, turn off the TV and read. And I'm real big on that. I typically, 40, 50, 60 books a year, but sometimes I just don't want to work. I don't want to process through it. I just want to unplug, and I try not to do it too much, but you just lay in bed and just watch for 30 minutes of mind numbing nothingness, to recharge. So, what specifically do you do to recharge? I know you talked about running. So you're like a athletically, like running, like marathons or something?
No, I would probably keel over in a marathon, but no, get out and run in 30, 45 minutes, doing that a few times a week.
Okay.
Definitely helps burn off some tension, frustration, and actually clears mind. We'll listen to a lot of talk radio while running, believe it or not, rather than music.
Okay.
And then, quite honestly, just like you, love the days that you can just watch mindless television for a little bit and reboot.
Sure, absolutely. Now, I saw on here too, you like to intentionally get bored. So talk about that. How do you do that?
I tell you, mindless TV, there's no better way to feel, watch a few hours of something and just realize that that's 2 hours you're not going to get back. And you kind of get geared back up to either read, dive back into work, email, plenty of things to do.
Sure, absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense.
And growing up here for 41 years, you grow to have a handful of knucklehead friends too that can really, make you reboot as well, make you forget about any stress that you possibly have.
It's funny that you say that. I'm gonna take a minute to talk about that. So when I've been married, my 20-year anniversary is coming up here in a couple months. And, when my wife met me, she's like, "Oh, you used to be so much fun. You just had carefree. You did that. Now you're so intense all the time." And, it's funny because what comes naturally to me is the kind of footloose and fancy free, just having a good time. Unfortunately, whenever you've got people that depend on you for your checks or for their checks and to support their families and some of those stresses you were talking about, you don't have the same ability to do that. And maybe you do, but it's kind of easier said than done. So I've had to turn into this director personality, hey, what do you need? Let's get to the bottom line. Let's go. And it's probably not my natural personality, but when you get around some of your old friends, unfortunately I had to go to a funeral a few weeks ago of one of the kids I graduated with. And I bumped into, several of my friends. We went and had a bite to eat afterwards. And it was like, some of them I hadn't seen in 10 years. Some of them has been 20, but it's like we never missed a beat. And, I think people don't do enough of that, of reconnecting with good influences, but old friends where you can, like I said, just kind of process through and there's different levels of success that people have. But if you can just kind of strip it down and just go out and have some dinner and have a good time and just kind of reminisce a little bit, it's always good to do that to recharge as well.
Absolutely. And that's the neat thing about Facebook and some of the social platforms. It gives you now a mechanism to reconnect with some of these people.
Yeah, you really do.
Nothing beats in person, but at least it gets you that medium to try to pull people together.
Yep, absolutely. No question about it. So now, recharging when it comes to getting out of town and going on vacation, is there a specific place that you like to do that?
There's nothing better than up in the mountains in the summer. I absolutely love. My dad's lived up in Frisco, Colorado for over 20 years, and going up there in the summer. And I mean, it's beautiful. The weather's getting out of Texas heat around July, just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, no question about it. And it's cool. You go up there and you see these little, snow peaks on some of the mountains still. It's unbelievable that can happen. In America, we've got such diverse, we got beaches, it's hot, it's cold. There's a little bit of everything all the time. So
I used to go up there for every July 4th, and it would be one year they dropped 4 inches of snow. The very next year, it would be 70 degrees.
Man, that is cool. Now, how much vacation do you typically get to take per year?
I usually take, it's always work, typically a work vacation.
Yeah.
We'll end up going and sneaking out to a 3-day weekend that's tied with some sort of work meeting or conference. So
right.
It's usually a little bit of a mixture, but rarely do I just block out that 2-week or 1-week period to do nothing but get bored.
Sure. Well, and that's the thing with entrepreneurs. I mean, there's always a price you pay for stuff. And so while you don't have to necessarily answer to a boss, you have to answer to far more than that, because you can never turn it off and just clock out on a Friday afternoon and then, I'm not going to answer my phone or emails for 9 days. So it's the price you pay for success. No question about it. Absolutely. Now, when it comes to sleep, how much sleep do you get per night?
Usually it's about that 5-hour range a night, and then probably about once every 2 weeks, you catch yourself going to bed at like 9 o'clock and waking up the next morning refreshed at 6:30. So it probably averages out there with that to about 6.5 hours.
Gotcha. Well, some of these guys that can operate on 4 or 5 hours of sleep, I don't know how you guys do it, because I got to have more sleep than that, man. I just have to have it. So glad to see you guys are able to operate like that. When it comes to work-life balance, I know you said you've got some kind of things that you do to kind of unintentionally or intentionally unplug and things along those lines. But when I say work-life balance, is that something that resonates with you, or are you just kind of like a lot of entrepreneurs that you're just going all the time?
No, actually, the balance is great. I still still play soccer and some of those sports that really gets you out. And you really, when you're playing any type of organized sports, it's hard to grab your phone in the middle of a game. So it's good little breaks away from it.
Sure. Well, one of the things I found, I don't think I've talked about this on the show before, but I've got so much going on. I'm always, answering my phone or texting or doing whatever. So I literally have to pencil in a date night every week that's penciled in, that's on my schedule, that I have to have that. Otherwise, I will inadvertently put something else in that spot. And so for those that are married, I will tell you, marriage is grand. I hear divorce is $100,000. And so do your best to not do that. There's other implications as well. But if you are married and you're an entrepreneur, schedule intentional time to spend with your significant other, because it really is important to do that. So, man,
very easy to make them the last. It's very easy to put that on the back burner when you see them every day. But when you're with them and you're working, it doesn't necessarily mean you're with them. So.
Right. Yeah, and our closest, family or people are sometimes the ones we take for granted the most. Unfortunately, I don't know why it is, but it seems to work that way. So, well, let me ask you this, Mike. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, I know you do a lot of different things and some speaking engagements and such. How would someone get in touch with you if they wanted
to? Email or cell. Both are with me all the time.
Okay, perfect.
So you got Mike at 3commas.com, and that's 3 spelled out.
Okay.
And you can always call my cell at 972-998-8978.
Perfect, man. Well, I really appreciate you being on the show. I'll tell you what, it has been phenomenal. I actually had a whole laundry list of other stuff I wanted to ask you, and maybe we'll go grab some lunch one day. But you just, what an impressive guy, and thanks for taking the time.
That.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for taking the time, to carve out with us. And here's the success on 3commas.com. I am sure that it will be phenomenal with the launch tomorrow, and we'll promote it on all of our sites and such. And I'll go on and buy a couple shirts, and definitely I'll promote them for you, and make my little contribution to hopefully making that $1 billion operation as well.
Well, when we have lunch, I'll definitely bring some clothes with me.
You got it, bro. You got it. We always like to close up the show with a credit tip of the week. And, one thing that I've seen a lot over the years is medical bills. A lot of times folks, they think they've got insurance. They don't worry about it. They file it away, and then they wind up having a $20, $30, $40 collection on their account. And so I highly recommend anything you get in the mail from Blue Cross Blue Shield or whoever your insurance company is, open it up, look and see if you owe anything. When you go to the doctor, they absolutely tell you that you are responsible whether your insurance pays or not. So make sure to handle that so you don't have some kind of little one-off thing mess up your next mortgage or whatever the case is. And we want to, again, thank all of our sponsors for making ambitiousradio.com possible. We couldn't do it without you. Free Electricity DFW and RepairMyCreditNow.com. Tune in Wednesdays on the Ambitious Radio Network, where we interview thought leaders and exciting entrepreneurs changing the face of their organizations. Next week, we're going to be speaking with Rob Dubé of Image One. They were actually a case study in Gino Wickman's book, Traction, so I cannot wait to hear from him. Remember, you can make money or you can make excuses, but you cannot make both. Go out there and be ambitious.
Thank you for listening to the Ambitious Radio Network, hosted by serial entrepreneur Doug Parker. Join us weekly as we have engaging conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders on topics that can be applied immediately after listening. Like what you've heard? Listen to other interviews at ambitiousradio.com or subscribe on iTunes.